Good morning. It is Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. You can now relax and be informed. Here is your daily bite of news. Some quick updates on topics we previously covered. After being placed in a medically induced coma, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is being weaned off mechanical ventilation and is responding to verbal stimuli, according to Berlin Charité Hospital. It is still too early to determine the long-term impact of the poisoning. Navalny became sick on August 20th while on a flight from the Siberian city of Tomsk to Moscow. Before being flown to Berlin's hospital, Navalny was treated by Russian doctors who claimed he was not poisoned. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko could be about to give away his country's independence by signing an agreement on deeper integration with Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin has for many years pushed for closer ties with Belarus for a unified state. Lukashenko has in the past rejected such moves, but now faces protests and the threat of Western sanctions over the August 9th presidential election, which opponents say was rigged. A 27-year-old man has been arrested for the random stabbings in Birmingham, England. Officers said he is being held over 7 counts of attempted murder, but are not releasing his name or details of the case as of yet. In Beirut, Lebanon, after Prime Minister Hassan Diab agreed to step down, their former ambassador to Germany, Mustafa Adib, has been named the new Prime Minister. The government cabinet resigned en masse following outrage over the devastating explosion, but central bank chief Salameh says he will not step down and does not take responsibility for the state Lebanon is in. Salameh was recently accused of inflating the Lebanon Central Bank's assets by over $6 billion in 2018. Outgoing Prime Minister Hassan Diab testified Thursday before the lead investigator probing the Beirut port blast. Details have emerged that the known official file on the ammonium nitrate storage was sent to Diab on July 20th, who asked the Higher Defense Council to look into it. The council referred it 4 days later to the Public Works Ministry, the entity responsible for port operations. The Public Works Ministry received the documentation just hours before the blast flattened the port. Diab's office attributes the delay in its arrival to the coronavirus lockdown. Interestingly, the investigator also asked Diab about why he canceled a planned trip to the port weeks before the explosion. Authorities confirmed the Dorado Fire in California ignited at a family was using a pyrotechnic device to announce the gender of a new baby at a party. The device ignited 4-foot-tall grass on Saturday morning, and efforts to douse the flames with water bottles proved fruitless. The family called 911 to report the fire. By Monday, the fire had burned more than 7,300 acres and was only 7% contained. Evacuations were ordered for a nearby city of 54,000 people. It was just one of several fires that continued to burn out of control up and down California on Monday as extreme heat roasted much of the state. Criminal charges are being considered for the family, but would not be filed before the fire is extinguished. On to some more news. As California starts their recovery from the unrelenting heat and fires, Colorado is preparing for their first winter storm. In Colorado, Labor Day high heat and 92-degree temperatures will be replaced by a record-breaking cold just the next day as the front moves into the state, bringing winter-like conditions, including snow and below-freezing temperatures. Possible snow accumulation for Denver and Colorado Springs are believed to be in the 5-inch range, while higher elevations could receive a foot of snow. Snow is expected to fall on the Cameron Peak Fire, one of 4 major fires raging in the state. The moisture is good news for the fires, but not a season ender, unfortunately. It will take a succession of storms to ultimately put out the growing blaze. What could happen is the fire will continue to smolder under the snow before melting it and once again burning as temperatures raise to high levels again just days later. The snow could give firefighters a hand in containing parts of it, though. Whale researchers are pleased to report that Tahlequah, an orca whale in the J-Pod 35 in the Pacific Northwest Sea area, has given birth to a new healthy baby calf. Tahlequah made headlines in 2018 when she was seen carrying her dead calf on her head for 17 days straight over a distance of 1,000 miles across the sea off the coast of Washington and British Columbia. Her period of mourning over her calf touched many people. Her new calf's sex is unknown, but does appear to be quite healthy. A Saudi court issued its final verdict on Monday in the 2018 case of slain Washington Post columnist and Saudi critic Jamal Khashoggi after his son Salah, who still resides in the kingdom, announced pardons that spared 5 of the convicted individuals from execution. The court ordered a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison for the 5. Another individual received a 10-year sentence, and 2 others were ordered to serve 7 years in prison. A team of 15 Saudi agents had flown to Turkey to meet Khashoggi inside the consulate for his appointment on October 2, 2018. Back in 2018, a team of 15 Saudi agents flew to Turkey to meet Khashoggi. Turkish officials allege Khashoggi was killed and then dismembered with a bone saw inside the consulate where the meeting took place. The Saudi trial, however, concluded that the killing was not premeditated. That paved the way for Salah Khashoggi, one of the slain writer's sons, to months later announce that the family had forgiven his Saudi killers, which essentially allows them to be pardoned from execution in accordance with Islamic law. Salah Khashoggi lives in Saudi Arabia and has received financial compensation from the royal court for his father's killing. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin on Sunday said a deal between the White House and Congress would fund the federal government through the beginning of December, and that details of the spending bill should be finalized by week's end. The measure would help avert a government shutdown when current funding runs out September 30th. Mnuchin and the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had agreed to extend funding, according to a Democratic aide, but details on the bill have yet to emerge. Across the nation, states and cities have made an array of fiscal maneuvers to stay solvent. House Democrats included nearly $1 trillion in state and local aid in the relief bill they passed in May, but the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky has said he doesn't want to hand out a blank check to pay for what he considers fiscal mismanagement. Collectively, state governments will have budget shortfalls of $312 billion through the summer of 2022. Without further federal aid, some of the biggest cuts will be to education and health care. Preschool programs are being cut in many states, and many states say they will reduce their outlays for Medicaid. Some, like Colorado, are increasing the co-payments that their Medicaid patients must pay for doctor visits. Alaska chopped resources for public broadcasting. Prisoners in Florida will continue to swelter in their cells because plans to air condition its prisons are on hold. Many states have already cut planned raises for teachers. In May, the Federal Reserve offered to buy states' bonds if terms in the municipal bond market became onerous. So far, only one state, Illinois, and one state authority, New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority, have taken the Fed up on its offer. State officials say they have little choice but to keep cutting if more aid doesn't arrive. 200 ancient mammoth skeletons have been discovered beneath an airport construction site north of Mexico City, the largest collection of mammoth bones ever found. Archaeologists at Mexico National Institute of Anthropology and History first realized the areas might contain mammoth remains after they found 2 human-dug mammoth traps in November as part of routine excavations to clear land for the airport site. Now an observer accompanies every bulldozer at the construction site, just in case one digs up some new mammoth bones. Steroids have been found to seriously reduce the risk of death from COVID-19, new trials show. HWO is strongly recommending them for use among seriously ill patients based on the results of 7 clinical trials. Corticosteroids are a class of drugs that suppress out-of-control immune system responses. Steroids are cheaper and more readily available than remdesivir, the only other drug that's shown promise in treating serious COVID-19 cases. A robust analysis looking at 7 trials found that when patients on ventilators were treated with steroids, they had a 30% chance of dying, compared with a 38% chance among patients who didn't take them. For patients treated without ventilators, the benefit was even greater. people given steroids had a 23% chance of dying, compared with a 42% chance for people in a control group. Julian Assange made his first appearance in the Old Bailey London Central Criminal Court on Monday. In the hearings, Mr. Assange and his lawyer will argue against his extradition on the American charges, which accuse Mr. Assange of violating the Espionage Act. The charges stem from the publishing of secret military and diplomatic documents by WikiLeaks in 2010. The proceedings, which are expected to last until October, have been delayed for months because of the coronavirus pandemic. The U.S. charges allege that Mr. Assange conspired with Chelsea Manning, a former Army intelligence analyst, to hack into a Pentagon computer network, and that he began publishing the secret documents. In June, the Department of Justice announced a new indictment to supersede the charges against him, expanding the allegations that he had conspired with members of hacking organizations and had sought to recruit programmers to release classified information to WikiLeaks. Mr. Assange faces up to 175 years in prison if found guilty on all counts. From the start, the charges against Mr. Assange have raised profound First Amendment issues because his actions are difficult to distinguish in a legally meaningful way from those of traditional news organizations. It would be unprecedented in American law for such activity to result in criminal convictions, so press freedom advocates have denounced the charges against him. The street outside the central London court was crowded on Monday with dozens of supporters banging drums and waving signs with messages including "Don't extradite Assange" and "Free Assange." Britain is being criticized for its cooperation with the American extradition attempt. When asked whether he would consent to be extradited to the United States, Mr. Assange replied simply, "No." A quick update on election politics. 56 days before the election on November 3rd. Biden holds a steady 8-point lead in an average of national polls, but both campaigns say there are pathways for Trump to secure an electoral college victory, just as he did in 2016, though the routes seem to be narrowing. The Trump campaign is spending more than $50 million on advertising in the month of September. Biden is spending about $70 million on advertising in September. For the week starting Tuesday, he increased spending in Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Later in the week, Trump visits Michigan, which, like Florida and North Carolina, helped power his victory in 2016, but where polls now show him either trailing or tied with Biden. Biden will also visit Michigan this week, and both men will commemorate the 19th anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks in Pennsylvania, though it is not yet known if they'll encounter each other while there. 52 helium balloons take magician illusionist David Blaine on a wild ride over the Arizona desert almost 5 miles up in the sky. The stunt was performed live on YouTube, who sponsored the event. The stunt lasted an hour. At 21,000 feet, he had to wear an oxygen mask to breathe. At 24,900 feet, he parachuted back down to Earth. The stunt was inspired by movies Red Balloon and Up. Disney debuted the film Mulan in the U.S. September 4th over its recently launched Disney Plus streaming service. Downloads of Disney's streaming app rose 68% over the weekend. But the $200 million live-action remake of a Chinese folktale is facing fresh political criticism days after its North American streaming debut and just before its planned premiere at cinemas in China on September 11th. Newspaper columnists and social media commenters have faulted Disney for filming in Xinjiang and for using the film's credits to thank Chinese government departments from the region. The Chinese government is detaining around 1 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang in camps that the Beijing government calls voluntary education centers. The Uyghur human rights issue adds to other political opposition the film has sparked, including calls for a boycott after the star character voiced support for the police last year amid pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. There are calls on social media to boycott the Mulan film in both China and in America. That's it for now. To read more in depth on any of these topics mentioned, see our sources in the video description. Subscribe and click the bell icon to receive a daily video news update. Thank you so much for listening. Be relaxed, be informed, be connected.